Senator from Hawaii.
Madam President, my colleague, our good friend from Wyoming, has talked about the need to get back to regular order so that we can discuss our funding priorities. And the fact of the matter is, of course, we agree, and the regular order would be to go to conference on the budget which the Senate passed way back in March. And on a regular basis, the Democrats in the Senate have requested unanimous consent to go to conference on that budget. In fact, only a few days ago, we put in our 21st request for a unanimous consent to go to conference on our budget so that we can go to regular order and discuss and debate the priorities that are so important to all of us. And every single time, a Republican senator has objected to that request. Madam President, like so many of my Democratic colleagues have been doing, I come to the floor again today to discuss the urgent need to end the shutdown and raise the debt ceiling. There can no longer be any doubt that the shutdown is hurting hundreds of thousands of families and businesses throughout our country. I and many of my colleagues have told the stories of these families and businesses and will continue to do so. This shutdown hurts real people in real places all across our country. Keeping government running should not be a partisan battle. Yet, the Republicans who caused the shutdown in the first place seem to think that they'd be doing Democrats a favor by reopening government so that people can get back to work, get paid, and pay their bills. The idea that Congress should simply do its job isn't a favor to Democrats. It's our responsibility to the American people. The idea that stopping Congress from doing its job is somehow a valuable bargaining chip is incomprehensible to most people. Since the beginning of the shutdown, driven by an extreme faction of the Republican Party, people of all walks of life in Hawaii have contacted me. They've shared stories about the impact of the shutdown on their businesses, their families, and their communities. I've talked about the toll of the shutdown on our federal employees. I've shared stories from small businesses impacted by the closure of our national parks and other attractions. I've also been in contact with Hawaii's business community, our military, our state and local government, and others. Today, I'd like to share some more shutdown stories and also underscore that allowing the U.S. to default on paying our bills would only serve to make things much, much worse. One woman wrote to me, "My husband and I are both federal employees with the Forest Service. We both work in wildland fire. I am currently furloughed and he is working, but of course, neither of us will receive a paycheck. We have 3 children, ages 5, 3, and 1. My current daycare costs are $2,300 a month. I can't stop paying for daycare because all require a 2 to 4 week notice, and I would lose our spot for when I do go back to work. We have savings, but the money is what we have saved for things like Christmas and a special vacation together since my husband was gone for several months this summer fighting fires. This shutdown is extremely stressful for me, and I'm very concerned that it is going to go on for several weeks more." The Hawaii Chamber of Commerce, representing over 1,000 Hawaii businesses of all sizes, also sent me stories from some of their members. The president of one business wrote, 60% of our business is with the Department of Defense. We move military household goods around the world as they are restationed. As a direct result of the government shutdown, we've just had to lay off 41 of our 80 employees until this is resolved and the government starts booking moves. We informed the affected employees that all our staff will be working reduced hours. We anticipate that each day of this shutdown is costing the company over $18,000. Another business owner wrote, "My business is working on opening a 4th location in Aikahi Park Shopping Center. I was advised by our banker that SBA loan approvals and execution may be held up due to this debacle in D.C. He goes on, how is that helping to move our economy forward? If we ran our business the way our leaders on Capitol Hill run our country, well, the close for business sign would not be far behind. Madam President, these are stories about things that are happening now as a result of the shutdown. If the U.S. were to fail to pay our bills, things would be much worse. Interest rates would skyrocket. Our capital markets could freeze, and our nation's borrowing costs over the long term would require more of our federal budget. In other words, a default would end up costing our economy and consumers billions of dollars. Our country has never defaulted before. The consequences of such a default are so serious that everyone from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce to the National Association of Manufacturers have warned the Republicans in particular to avoid such a catastrophe. Even the uncertainty over a possible default is enough to hurt middle-class families and businesses. For example, after the last manufactured fiscal fiasco in 2011, mortgage interest rates rose. If you were a family looking to refinance or buy a new home, your mortgage would have cost you $100 per month more after the U.S. nearly defaulted than it would have cost you before. That means $100 less for families across the country to spend on groceries, gas, and other things. For most working people, $100 means a lot. Imagine piling another $100 a month or more on the family with 3 young children I mentioned earlier. We can't do that to them or other families like them. And remember, in 2011, we didn't default. The uncertainty alone caused mortgage interest rates to rise. Things would have been much worse if there had been a default. And yet, here we are again. It's incomprehensible that there are default deniers among my colleagues who refuse to believe that default will be catastrophic for all of us when we have the 2011 experience staring us in the face. A default would be like an immediate tax on everything that middle-class families do. If interest rates explode, the cost of living in Hawaii and everywhere else would rise. Student loan rates would go up. That'll reduce access to a quality education for many people. Credit cards, car payments, mortgages, all of these will become more expensive. The cost of doing business will go up. The cost of borrowing money to start or keep businesses going will go up. There is not a single good thing that will come from our country defaulting on paying its debts. As I've mentioned in past remarks, a government shutdown doesn't give businesses a pause in meeting their commitments. They still have to make rent, they still have to maintain staff, they still have to pay to keep the lights on. Imagine if the cost of all these things suddenly went up and still nothing was coming in. That's exactly where many businesses would find themselves if the U.S. defaults. In addition, with our economy still recovering from the economic crisis of 2008, finally we have businesses contemplating growing, and those plans will likely be put on hold or abandoned altogether. We should be growing jobs, strengthening the middle class, creating opportunities for our families and businesses. A default crisis would do exactly the opposite. In day 12 of the shutdown, and with a potential default looming on the horizon, it is way past time to give our families, businesses, and communities certainty and security. We need to open government and avoid a totally manufactured catastrophe. Let's get on with it. While I'm disappointed that our Republican colleagues yesterday failed to support going forward to do just that, I ask them to reconsider their position so that we can find a path that protects our families, our communities, and our economy. I yield the floor.